Yeah, I think the food's going to be arriving any second. But as is tradition, I just want to run through a bunch of things that sort of crossed my radar over the last couple of months that I think is interesting. So to kind of locate us within Sheffield in particular, and the areas in which technology is affecting the city and other things that are going on in kind of the built environment, the fabric of the city. I think these are all interesting things. So this is not comprehensive. I honestly, I had a list. This is about 2 months worth of me just spotting things and adding it to a list to do this item. And when I looked at it at the end of last week, I had 60 things on it, and I'm not going to give you 60 slides worth of stuff that's going on. There is a lot going on. Most important, probably the fact that our chief exec has just been reinstated. So Kate Josephs now has her job back. She's obviously going to have to spend a lot of effort progressing the city. We felt like we were on a real trajectory of improvement and development up until all the revelations around Christmas and her suspension. And so whatever we think about the fact that she's reinstated, and there's obviously a lot of people that aren't very happy about it and don't think that we can trust her. It's going to be interesting to see what she does next and how she pulls the city forward. It's not the next slide, but there's a slide later on about Sheffield City Council's budget, which is disastrous at the moment. I wanted to remind people of who is my councillor. I mentioned this at the last event. It's a website where you can find out about who your councillor is. They're basically interviewing all of the local councillors in the city, and you can go there and you can have a look at their interviews and how they voted and stuff. So it's a bit like They Work For You, which is the My Society thing about MPs. It's basically that for our local elected officials here in the city. And as far as I'm aware, it's the only one of these in the country. So we're the only city that has like a platform where you can go and find out about who your councillor is, that is kind of independent and not just their bio on the council website. And the Our City Centre consultation is still up and running. It will be, for the foreseeable. So Our City Centre -chef or shf.com. It's an open consultation about changes that are happening to the city centre. So go there and give your opinion about things. Other things, so Debenhams was going to be auctioned off in May, and the auction was postponed, apparently to give potential buyers more time to find the money because the price is seemingly going up. The guide price is now up past 5 million, I think, for the building. So yeah, the auction is it was postponed at no notice, as I understand it. And nobody knows, as far as I'm aware, when it's going to be back on the block. So watch this space. Equally, the Fargate Hub, people will have noticed if they were expecting there to be a container or shipping container-based retail and hospitality hub at the top of Fargate in time for the women's Euros, obviously. They will be surprised not to have seen it. Apparently, the reason that it's been delayed is because nobody told the water board, and it would cover up the main access point to the city sewer, which is a Victorian sewer, and nobody had done any testing to see whether the weight of the thing would break through into the sewer underneath Fargate either. So the whole thing's on hold. Marvelous. I noticed this. So Barnsley are doing this thing called the Barnsley Youth Zone. So it's a new development of a hub, a centre, and a load of activities for young people. So I've never seen one of these before, but rather than just there being an odd centre here or facilities for young people, they're creating a whole zone and attracting a load of providers into that zone. So creating a whole kind of connected, I think there's 20 different companies and activities and things to do all around this, basically to really reinvest in the youth of Barnsley. I thought this was a really interesting thing to do. We hear so much about young people services being cut. There've been no open spaces for them to congregate and be active. Barnsley seems to be doing something about it, so I'm really interested to see. This is just in the planning stage, but it's been zoned and land has been allocated for it. Be really interesting to see what the design is. Huh? I don't know. I mean, it's called the youth zone. I don't think there'll be different activities for different age groups, I imagine. But presumably the standard definition is anyone under the age of 25. So yeah, I don't think it's been more specific than just that. Paradise Square, people might know Paradise. I'm sure people know Paradise Square. It's a very old square in the city. Lots of legal companies, lawyers sort of based there, and it's a big cobbled car park on a slope. The Sheffield Town Trust that owns Paradise Square is seeking ideas for doing something different with it, which is going to annoy a lot of lawyers. But it's a lovely city square that maybe we could get more civic use out of than just parking Mercedes and BMWs. This doesn't go out anywhere, of course. Children's Health Centre. So this is another thing that's just gone into planning. So the plans have been revealed for the big. So this is the big research centre for children's health technologies that's being built at Olympic Legacy Park. So this is the kind of the latest extension or asset to be built at Olympic Legacy Park. It's a South Yorkshire Combined Mayoral Authority and Sheffield Children's Hospital NHS Trust venture to build this health centre specifically designed for kids' health. And also the Sharks have just announced the plan for their new stadium at Olympic Legacy Park as well. So that's the basketball team. And it's also being done in conjunction with Canon Medical. And it's going to be like a really advanced medical centre as well. So really reinforcing the health and sports medicine assets that are at Olympic Legacy Park, and building a brand new stadium for not just the basketball, obviously the Hatters as well as the Sharks, the women's team. But there's a whole bunch of other sports that are going to be using that venue as well. So that's really cool. Also, just while we're at the Olympic Legacy Park, they're talking about banning lorries from Atacliff. So there's a plan gone in to move or lift a bridge in order to reroute heavy goods vehicles away from Atacliff. So there's just a sort of another stage towards kind of rehabilitating Atacliff and making it the sort of feeder town for the Olympic Legacy Park and all of the activity that's going on there, and getting heavy goods out off Atacliff High Street is a good step towards doing that. They also announced the plan for the Sheaf Valley cycle route that's being extended. Part of that is that I think they've already done this, closed off the little rat run under the railway bridge at Little London Street, I think it is, isn't it, not street? Don't know if people are aware to get through to Queen's Road from Aberdale Road, from the Aberdale Road side. There's used to be able to actually go two ways, and they just removed it to one. But yeah, there's obviously drivers aren't very happy about it because it cuts out having to go all the way, sort of to where that kind of circular is around where Pure Gym is and stuff like that. But yeah, that's now only accessible. You can only get through there on bicycle. So that's part of the Sheaf Valley cycle route that runs from kind of Woodseats all the way to the station, essentially. They want that to be a continuous cycle route that's safe. And they're also looking at making the spoke roads, the Ecclesall and Aberdale Road, parking free. So during daylight hours, you won't be able to park on either of those streets. That is massively controversial for all of the businesses along both of those streets. But that seems to be what they're going to be trialing, or at least shifting the parking to only one side of the road and making room for cycling. Which brings me to the active neighbourhoods, which if any of you were here at the last event, we talked about the pushback on this. So Netheredge active neighbourhood and now Walkley neighbourhood, active neighbourhood as well. There's been a lot of backlash They weren't consulted properly at the beginning, one could argue, especially Walkley, which a lot of the community are elderly, rely on cars and being driven places. They can't really walk very far. They don't ride bicycles. The way they've blocked the roads off, they've basically left forced vehicles to do, 20-point turns in the street to drop people as close as they can to their kind of day centres and meeting places when they drop elderly residents off and things like that. So, but it's a 6-month trial, and they've already committed to the 6-month trial, and they're measuring things on a 6-month basis, and they're not stopping it before then, even if businesses go out of business in the meantime because their footfall has disappeared. So, yes.
You know, most people that go to businesses walk and they don't drive.
Well, yes. I don't know if that's true of Walkley in particular, but yeah, yes. There was, maybe not coincidentally, there was a review published recently in the last few weeks by an organisation called Involve, which reviews local authorities' public engagement methods, and Sheffield City Council was found to be falling short. There were some very good examples of public engagement and consultation in some parts of the council, but it's not evenly distributed. And the Involve review was quite, I don't know, scathing is maybe not the right word, but pointed out some, a not insignificant number of failures in engaging with communities and the public when implementing new initiatives. One thing that they are doing, I'd imagine, coincidentally, I don't think it's come out as a result of the Involve report, but I think it's interesting nonetheless, is that they've spun up a climate change engagement platform. It's poll.is, Polis. It's a consultation platform for people to comment about any climate change or low carbon initiatives that the council are engaged in. So they're at least investing in an online platform to do some of that consultation. Obviously, doing digital consultation is never enough, but it's worth pointing it out. And if it's worth going and having a look to see what kind of comment is available through Polis on some of the things that they're doing. I should also mention the SCC budget, which has been described as on the verge of bankruptcy. There's a massive, I think there's was it £34 million shortfall already in this financial year, with an enormous amount of the council's budget being spent on social care, higher proportion than other similar sized cities in England. So one of the reasons that consultation isn't always as good as it might be is because a lot of the council are essentially continually firefighting on budget and making decisions about which services they're going to need to cut, because once again they're going to be forced to cut services, and there are no services that haven't already been evaluated with everything cut that could be cut over the last 10 years anyway. So there's lots of consternation, and it's very stressful for many people, many officers at the council. And similarly, we're seeing lots of bus cuts as well. According to the plan, the service cuts in the bus service, there will be only 4 services running later than 10 p.m. Once the cuts are implemented in October. And there seems very, very little to do to change that. One thing that is happening, though, is that the shuttle bus that goes round Sheffield City Centre is being reinstated. It was decommissioned. The service was cut in 2014, I think, possibly a bit earlier than that. But it is being brought back, so there will be a free bus that will be circulating around Sheffield City Centre, and they're routing it sort of to connect up with Leopold Square. So they're actually making changes to the road layout right in the centre of town at the top of Fargate in order to accommodate the new route for the shuttle bus. And that is supposedly happening this summer, although presumably it won't interfere with the new Fargate Hub whenever that arrives. And also the Barrow Hill line, so this is opening the railway line running from what used to be Victoria Station, so recommissioning Victoria Station in Sheffield and running a local rail service out to Killamarsh, presumably servicing the kind of innovation corridor and AMRC. That plan, there's an outline plan has been submitted, and it's one of 9 that has been selected for final assessment. So if it's one of the ones that gets through, then there will be a full assessment of whether that's a feasibility of reopening that railway line that was decommissioned in the 1960s. What else? On the entrepreneurial side, Northern Gritstone just announced that they'd hit their funding target and it's now open to fund spin-out. So this is an investment fund that's been set up by University of Sheffield and Leeds and Manchester. I think they have 217 million in their first round, and they're looking to use that to fund technology spin-outs from those universities. And there are also digital innovation grants have now been made available again. These were available a few years ago. So I think this is run through Business Sheffield. You can get funding of between 1 and 5k match for any technology project that you think might improve productivity. So censoring up a factory or any other business, for example, would be an appropriate project to apply for one of these grants for. What else? Oh, the plans have gone in for a 50 megawatt solar farm in Dinnington. That would provide electricity for like 18,000 homes, I think was the number. And then there's a bunch of trials. So they're about to vote. I think they're voting this week on whether to start a food waste trial in 8,000 households in Sheffield to recycle food waste. There's South Barnsley are considering a free bulky waste collection trial. Although why these don't exist already, I don't really know. I grew up in Switzerland where this is a regular thing. Twice a year they come around and collect bulky waste for free. But obviously that's not the case everywhere. But this is up for consideration for trialing in South Barnsley. There's also Addy Street has put in for a noise camera pilot to try and to deal with people speeding and street racing, essentially, up the hill in Walkley. And there's a petition to stop fly tipping at Freshville Pond by installing CCTV cameras. So all of these, there's the petitions. There's obviously local residents and communities have identified that there is a problem, and they're trying to get the council to help them by providing technology. I always think with these things, there's an opportunity for technologists to go and do something about this, to take one of those innovation grants and maybe a local company and seeing if there's a project that we can do, because the council is not likely to do these things because they have too many other things that they need to find value for. Although ultimately, of course, fly tipping costs an awful lot of money. So there's also this is more than a pilot. I think this is a pilot, but it's actually going ahead. It's not just in planning stage. So this is a pilot to connect up, I think it's 8,000 homes in Dryden Estate, Southey Green, to provide them with free and low-cost broadband. This is through the Laptops for Kids, the Wan Disco and Dave Richards Family Foundation, working with the council, the Sheffield University, and a whole set of civil society groups that are local there. And then finally, Sheffield has got its first electric ice cream van. Making ice cream vans electric is not a trivial thing to do. They tend to sit on their diesel engine all day because they have to keep their ice cream cool, and they have to run the engine to churn it and everything to keep the soft ice from being the wrong consistency. But Cuneo have solved these problems, and they have managed to produce a full electric ice cream van that is now in its pitch. I'm not entirely sure where its pitch is actually, but it's a fixed pitch because it has to be connected to a power supply the whole time. So while it's running, it hasn't got a battery that big to run all day. There we go. If you haven't already joined the mailing list, let me know if there are any other news items you want me to cover in Smart Sheffield News. I'd like to finish by thanking our 4 speakers tonight, who were Pierre and Maria and Falk, wherever Falk's gone, and Alex over there. Sorry, right there in between. And yeah, the food should be ready now. So thanks very much, everybody. I hope you enjoy the chats for the rest of the hour or so that we're here. Thank you.